Well, China has more or less relaxed an awful lot of requirements for visitors during these Olympics. For instance, vaccinated athletes, delegates and journalists do not have to do the 21-day quarantine that is normally expected. However, they are kept within a supposedly hermetic loop where everyone who works within it, be they media, be they Olympic staff and volunteers, or also delegates and athletes coming from abroad, they only come into contact with one another and not the general public. So this is something that Beijing hopes will keep infections to a minimum outside the loop. Of course, we've seen with Omicron that these sort of measures are far from watertight. That has even got its way into China so far, but it probably will minimise the infections. There are a number of reasons why Beijing is keen to keep infections low. The most obvious one is public health, and also another one is the fact that a large-scale infection outbreak from the Olympics could actually call into question its zero COVID policy, which it has maintained for the past 2 years and has been relatively successful, and also is relatively popular, in fact probably quite popular among the Chinese public.
And Oliver, the other crisis that, as I mentioned there, is the boycott over Beijing's treatment of the Uyghur minority. How has that affected these games?
Well, it is certainly going to make the opening ceremony a far more muted thing than it was before. There's about 18 countries have said that they will not be sending diplomatic representatives to the Games. Now, not all of them explicitly said it was because of human rights abuses in Xinjiang, but many of them are keeping away. That leaves just probably about 10 to a dozen countries sending diplomatic representatives. These are fairly low numbers because it has to be remembered that the Olympic Games are, in most parts of the world, not a very big deal. Their appeal is mainly restricted to Northern Hemisphere countries, and even then not an awful lot of those, most of them fairly wealthy Western ones. Even in China itself, the Winter Olympics is not exciting the greatest amount of passion, mainly because China will not rank too high in the medals, unlike in the Summer Games, which of course Beijing previously held in 2008. They were quite a big success, but even back then, when China was a little bit less heavy-handed than it is today, there were no protests within the country on human rights abuses. The Washington Post reported today that athletes from 2 Western countries could stay away from the opening ceremony as a result of it, but we'll have to see. Yes, it probably will be fairly low key.